know what to expect when you do the comp. Like you just have to hope that you can adapt to the situation and overcome. But that's what keeps strongman so exciting to me because of the healthy variety. And it's just the idea of doing another squat, bench, deadlift meet. Like just the thrill isn't there anymore. The thrill isn't there. For the deadlift, it still is though. For the deadlift, yes, the deadlift will always be super exciting. But for bench and squat, not so much.
No, I totally get that because even for me, like lifting in general just isn't quite as exciting as it used to be. And, a part of that is like my body doesn't feel like it did when I was 20, even 25. I'm 30 now. So I've been doing it since I was 14. I have a lot of wear and tear. And my body, like my back, hurts quite often. My hips are all jacked up. It just doesn't perform like it used to. I don't know. Do you have any of that? Because you've been in the game a long time. Do you feel like your body's not like where it was 5, 6, even, longer than that, even more than that years ago? Like, do you feel any wear and tear or do you feel pretty fresh still?
Frankly, I feel pretty fresh. No doubt the PRs don't come as easy anymore. That's no doubt. They're a lot harder. Like every 0.5% is a struggle to put on. And that's part of the reason why I'm not jumping back into a meet for the foreseeable future, if not ever, because what I'll have to do to hit another squat PR, hit another bench PR, the amount of P's I need to take and the food I need to consume, like it's so unhealthy that I don't want to do it to my body again. Now in strongman, it can be argued that you need to take even more, but I've spoke with some competitors and it's not so much about pushing the envelope with that stuff as it is about like just having the movement down to a science and being like really efficient in your way of lifting it and all that and the other. But for me to hit PRs in those specific movements, like it's going to take so much that I'm not willing to sacrifice my health anymore for that. And now I don't have any aches and pains, but that's because I'm still on testosterone all year round. So that acts as an anti-inflammatory. If I were to ever come off, which I have years back, and straight away my hips hurt, my knees hurt, my elbows hurt, everything like comes. I just come back to reality, like, okay, like this is what my body's actually going through. But when you're on testosterone, I mean, and you're abusing it, like you feel like Superman, like you don't notice, your body is numb to those aches and pains that you would have if you weren't taking it. So I know if I ever come off entirely one day, even off TRT, that's waiting for me, just a matter of when.
Yeah, I totally get that. I wonder if that kind of exacerbates how I feel right now because body just feels like trash, but I've been off testosterone for almost 18 months. So obviously I've lost like tons of weight, tons of strength, and it's just part of the game. Now, like here's something interesting because in strongman, I've always wondered this because strongman is so endurance based, so cardiovascularly based. Is TREN like not as big in strongman because you have to be able to like do these endurance events, and we all know TREN kind of works counteractively against endurance because in powerlifting, TREN is like the go-to. Like I loved it. It was my number one drug. Made crazy progress on it. But I feel like if you're doing like yoke carries and farmer's walks, TREN might like gas you out easier. So like the guys not use it as much?
Well, it depends on the event. So let's say there's 5 different movements that you have to train for. And, 3 of them are heavy compound movements, but 2 of them are moving events. In that particular case, if you're confident that you can place quite high in the compound movement events, you can get away with using TREN because you'll know that your overall placing across the 5 exercises will be good, But if you think that you're going to really dominate the moving events, then you wouldn't be best to use TREN because it 100% will gas you out very quickly. Even, no matter how hard you push yourself on TREN, you'll never have the stamina that you would if you're off of it doing the same thing, right? It's always going to be a compromise. So I think strategically using the drugs that you think you'll perform best at, like again, if there's 3 compound movements, like let's say there's a log clean and press, a deadlift, and a giant dumbbell press, and then 2 of the movements are like yoke and farmers, right? And you think that you're going to crush all the compound movements. You can run TREN and then place number 1 or 2 in those 3 movements, and then in the moving events you're not going to place as well, but your overall points, your overall score will be still really good because you place high at the majority of the events, So it depends on the lineup of movements for the event for what the guys use. But I've heard mega doses. There's always those guys who just push it to astronomical doses regardless of the events, and try and get away with it. But when you see guys like Novikov, like how much could he possibly be running at 130 kg? At 6 foot, he can't be pushing it that hard. So I think just not trying to abuse it and try and like let the PDs carry you, and like really focusing on like just being really movement efficient and getting the movement down to a science and like being smart about everything. But with your programming and your peaking is more important than like just trying to let the drugs carry you all the way. And I try and get away with the bare minimum. I try to get away with the bare minimum. But because TREN has just, besides gas can't be advanced, like all the other sides that TREN brings, like the mood swings and the insomnia and the acne, like just a nightmare to deal with it. Like, is it even worth the small extra strength gain they'll give you over something like a D ball, a T ball, or or deck or equipoise? Is it even worth it? But it's a nightmare to deal with. It's I hate it.
Dude, my wife, like, this was like 4 years ago. She's like banned me from it. She's like, no more TREN. It makes you crazy. Because it legit, like, the mind games are insane. I feel like I'm psychotic. Like, I turn into crazy person, aggressive, paranoid, like super. It's so bad for me. So it got me, like, nothing got me as strong as that did, but I just couldn't handle it much longer. And I don't know. But I've pushed some crazy cycles. And I feel like, too, what you were saying, like, as we get older, we kind of tone it back. We're like, okay, we got to find a balance between health and performance. So you kind of scale back from the younger days where it's like crazy stuff.
Exactly. And then when you're young, you can get away with it because everyone tells you, oh, your peers like, oh, you're young, don't worry about it. Like, you're supposed to be healthy and everything. But you're totally right. I'm on that same page with, okay, I'm going to be 30 soon and I need to dial things back and I want to have kids, soon. I don't want to be 35, 40 trying to have kids. I don't even know if I'm fertile enough to have kids. I have to deal with that as well. I have to figure that out. So, you start, life hits you, it comes fast. And there are definitely consequences to running this kind of stuff for so long. I mean, I'm on PDs for 10 years straight, right? And the worst of them has definitely been TREN. I mean, on all the other PDs, my mental health is okay. I'm not paranoid or I'm not, irritable or aggressive, overly aggressive, so it's just that one, it's just TREN that just makes life living hell. It just makes everything gets to me on TREN. So I haven't used it in a while for that reason, or orals for that matter. I seem to just test at the moment.
Well, I totally know what you mean. Like, it's just, there's nothing like it. Halo testing never made me like that. Halo testing maybe made me a touch more irritable, but I never got the like crazy mind games like TREN. And it was one of those things. I ran it upwards of like going into some of those meets, like the backyard meet of the century that said super training. I was doing like 700 MIGs. And like, we would just get to the last 2 weeks before the meet and just pin everything and pretty much try to go on and do the best you could. But I the last couple of years I was competing, I was big into like Anavar. Like Anavar, I don't know if you have much experience with it. I'm sure you've tried it. I love it. Like, that's my favorite, hands down.
Okay. Yeah. It's my go-to when I'm cruising and I just want a little boost, or if I'm like a photo shoot, or if I don't have any big goals in mind, Anavar definitely fills that void. At like 50 to 100 minutes a day, and just no real sides to mention. No. I only get my on it, and everything comes back okay, except like some elevated blood pressure and maybe liver enzyme and such, but nothing really significant that's like threatening my health. Like, but if I get my bloods done on TREN,
oh god, yeah, right,
everything's in the red.
It's bad. My cholesterol, I think my LDL, which is like your bad cholesterol, I didn't check. I didn't do a lot of blood work when I was on cycles like that, because you don't want to see. You kind of bury your head in the sand back in the day. You're like, I don't want to know. I know it's bad. I think it was like 185, but I've seen guys 300 plus LDLs, and obviously, like, it's part of the thing. It's just you're pushing your body. It's part of the cost. But Anavar, I got just as good a strength as like Anadrol. Like, I got better actually. Anavar, I saw better strength gains than Anadrol. I loved it. It was like my favorite. I wish I discovered it sooner, but it's one of those things.
Okay. I'll have to try that next time. I'm preparing for a big PR. I never tried Anavar in preparation for a big PR. It's always been like in my bodybuilding days where I would try and cut down for a show. I'd have Anavar in the mix. Yeah, that's what I would use Anavar.
Gains are crazy. Like, the strength gains are absurd. I would basically do, because it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to kick in. So the first 2 to 3 weeks, you're not going to feel much. I would do 25 MIGs. And then 3 weeks in, I'll kick it up to 50 MIGs, 25 morning, 25 evening to cover the half-life. And I would run it like 12 weeks because it's not very liver toxic at all. As you said, your liver enzymes don't change much. Your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, it'll get cut down in about 50%. But other than that, like the actual damage on lab work isn't that bad. So obviously, like it does affect lipids a little bit. Liver enzymes are not touched hardly at all. And it's just one of those things like you can run for prolonged periods as far as what I did. And I didn't notice any negative side effects beyond what I would see on the labs. And the strength gains were absurd, like so explosive. It would make me so explosive. I could just, my deadlift would instantly feel much stronger, crazy explosion. Like it was 100% my go-to. I loved it.
Interesting. And it didn't affect your appetite negatively, or
Nothing, like no toxicity as far as that's concerned, because it's not hard on the liver, so you don't get all the toxicity. So I'm like huge on Anavar. Obviously I don't take anything anymore, but like I loved it. That was my favorite.
awesome. I'll give
That's
that a
what
try
Hack
then.
said too. Hack said that's his favorite, and he'll add an Anadrol too, but he loves Anavar.